Welcome back, everyone, to the Profits for Sanity podcast. I'm your host, Dominic Caminata, CEO and founder of Grosso University. Today, I'm joined by Brandon Miller, who's the CEO of Uplevel Digital and a longtime leader in the home improvement marketing space. Brandon's journey started in 2014, doing digital marketing for a multi-brand remodeling company. And from there, he moved into a national home improvement marketing agency where he rose from accounting manager to director of client management, leading a team of over 30 and advising hundreds of contractors across the country on their marketing efforts. After seeing firsthand what worked and what did not work, he launched Uplevel Digital in 2022 with a clear mission to give remodelers marketing and technology that actually drives growth without a bloated agency price tag. That's sweet music to our ears. Now Brandon and his team are building HelloJade, an AI-powered command center designed to help remodelers centralize their tools, simplify operations, and use AI in a way that's practical and built for the trades. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and break down what remodelers get wrong about digital marketing, how SEO and GEO are evolving in the age of AI, and what contractors must do right now to stay profitable in a rapidly changing landscape. So Brandon, first of all, welcome to the show. I appreciate you driving all the way up here. You want to tell everyone where you're from?
Well, right now, and thanks for having me, by the way, Dominic. I've
pleasure.
been excited to do this for quite some time. So currently live in Naperville, Illinois, so a suburb outside of Chicago, but I grew up in Peoria, Illinois, which is where I got the start in the home remodeling industry.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was about 2.5 hour drive for you to get here, right?
Yep, pretty short.
And you brought the whole family?
Brought the whole family. They were running around the office. I got two little girls, 4 and 2, and they've just been trapped up in the car, so they were super excited to run around and see the place. But we're here for a couple of days. We love Wisconsin, love coming up every time.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you. And just like you, I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. So a lot of people probably, if you haven't heard of Brandon Miller before, I first ran into Brandon Miller when I was doing a big project with Sherwin-Williams. There was actually a project called Metal View, and it's still very active to this day, essentially giving contractors the tools, technology, and resources to be able to sell and install metal roofing profitably, right? Make more with metal. Yeah. And I got introduced to Brandon Miller at that time, and my goodness, before I met Brandon Miller, you want to talk about one horror story after the other. So I tried to work with, probably 5 or 6 different marketing agencies since I founded Grosso University to get a functional website. Let's start there, because websites matter. And have a website that's actually functional and drives revenue, I know is important, but I didn't believe it was even possible. And then we started working with you, and immediately we started seeing leads coming through from our website. I'm like, what is that? I thought it was spam.
That's the first thing you said to me. It's like, is this actually legitimate? No, that's a lead.
Yeah, is that a real lead? And I didn't even, what do we do now? What do we do next? So it was very much a learning experience, very eye-opening. But ever since then, we have a gorgeous website that is absolutely amazing. Our domain authority is off the charts. Our SEO, people Google home improvement sales training. We're top of mind. We're front and center. We're getting so much organic traffic now. I can't even believe it. So,
and the website is definitely a big part of that. But also, I just want to this is one thing that any remodeler should be doing in their day-to-day operations, like what you guys do here, what we're doing right now, shooting video content, what you do offsite has always been important. But in the wave of AI and AI search, and it's really important, not just on-site, but off-site authority and trust that you guys are working to build up.
Yep. So you have a pretty long history in the home improvement industry, but most of the people I've ever met, especially the people I've had on the show, it's kind of a common trend that they stumbled upon the home improvement industry seemingly by accident, but then once they discovered this amazing industry full of abundance, they tend to stay. So what was that moment you discovered the industry, and tell us about that journey to being the founder of Uplevel?
My story is no different. Yeah. I just fell into this by happenstance. And then over time, it's like, wow, I've learned so much and I know what can be done and how to do it. It's just like, there's no way I can leave. And I had a chance to leave right before Uplevel, but I decided to stick around and, keep going deep into the space. But I started back in 2014. So I graduated college. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. My major at the time, went to school for sports communication. So my initial thought post-college was to be working in an athletic department or something, but I just did a couple internships, realized it was not the path that I actually wanted to take, but I found a home remodeling group in Peoria, Illinois, and they were looking for someone to come do digital marketing. And, I had a minor in marketing. I never really did marketing or digital marketing. I knew websites, kind of. I knew some WordPress stuff. And honestly, before I went down the route of looking at sports communication, I always kind of had the back of my head, like, I like computers, I kind of like tech stuff. So put an application in, had an interview, and I got hired. And fortunately, I had someone that was there who like kind of set up some of the websites, kind of helped guide me and like supported me along the way. But really, it was just kind of like self-learning for the most part. Like I had to figure out, all right, how do I manage 10 different websites because there was 10 different brands. I think it was like 6 siding and window companies, basement waterproofing, kitchens, bathrooms, gutter protection. So it was like literally every single interior and exterior trade all under one umbrella. And then the most important thing is I got to see how a home remodeling company operates. Man, I remember this was like their CRM was, oh my gosh, FileMaker, if I remember correctly. It was like offline FileMaker. And I remember,
was that a floppy disk or something?
Yeah, it was not online. It wasn't connected. I remember part of my job was literally to like, when a lead came through, I printed it off. I picked it up from the printer. I would go and walk it over to the call center and then drop it into a basket. But like, those are the, the basic principles of like a lead comes in, you got to call it, you got to, follow up on it. You got to assign it to a sales rep. So I just got to see the whole operation. And really the reason why I left was, after doing this for about 1.5 years or 2 years, it's like, okay, this is the profession that I want to like go deep into because I like digital marketing. And I found a company in the Chicagoland area because I did want to move from Peoria up to a bigger city that did digital marketing, but they only worked within home services. And so it was a natural fit. Maybe my digital marketing chops are probably not as qualified as maybe some of the other candidates that they're interviewing, but like coming from a home remodeling background and they were going very deep into home remodeling at the time, it made a ton of sense for me to, get hired and start there. So started as a client manager, very entry level. Oh my gosh, like when I started there, the one thing that I was terrified of was like having to go and speak to customers. Like I wanted to like go and do digital marketing, but the conversations, like that was the thing that I was most kind of petrified of. I remember my very first call, being on a call, just trying to walk a customer through like our admin. And I got off the call, I'm like, oh, what am I doing? But like, just
Isn't it funny how you remember those things though? Like your first, I remember my first lead ever. I don't remember like the thousands of leads I had after that, but the very first lead I ever had, I remember like it was yesterday. And that's why I talk about it so much because I just remember how robotic I was because I knew I didn't have a clue what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
But I closed my first lead I ever got issued to me.
Really?
Yeah. Just
oh my gosh.
following this paint by numbers system. That's why I believe in the system so much. Because even when I sucked at it and had no clue what I was doing, it was still working.
What was that feeling like? You walk in your first one and then you walk out with a deal?
I was actually terrified of the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was, I had thin skin at the time. It was new to sales. I didn't have any sales background. But closing that first sale, I was excited, but also kind of terrified. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. But then I closed my first 7 sales in a row.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Not having ever done this before in my life. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And then immediately I just became obsessed with it. I became hooked. I'm just like, this is what I want to do.
And it's hard because I'm sure you're like, how can I get better? But like being 7 for 7, it's
you're like, I got it all figured out apparently.
Yeah.
No, I got a lot of reality checks right after that. Yeah. Reality hit me. And I said one of the curse words that no salesperson should say. I'm like, wow, this is easy.
Oh no.
And then I had like 3 of those deals cancel. I had 1 get declined for financing, so there goes 4 of the 7. And then I'm considering veering into oncoming traffic. I'm just like the highs and lows of being a salesperson. I'm like, wow, this sucks. This is the hardest job ever.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, very much a learning curve. But yeah, I can relate to that. Just that first call you made. Just obviously, you said you were a little nervous, a little.
Yeah. So just terrified, but got through it. And really what kind of shifted in my mentality is once I could figure out like the most important thing, which is what I was trained on before getting to the company, was what does a remodeler care about most? They care about leads, appointments, and sales. Yeah. And kind of everyone else was kind of classically trained around, I'm going to talk to you about digital marketing terms. Like here is your cost per click and your click-through rate and your impressions and your bounce rate. And it's like, who cares? Like that does not matter. Those are all terms that we need to know as digital marketers. We need to understand how we can affect outcomes, but that's not something that we need to have front and center in these conversations. Is what are you looking to achieve the next 30 days as a business? How many sets are you looking to run? So based on those metrics there, I can kind of figure out how many leads you actually need. Based on the leads you actually need, then I can put together an equation and figure out kind of spend and the deployment of marketing campaigns, and just be very creative as well too. Everyone, not everyone, but it's very easy to just put together a very simple ad and just have, we got free installation, or you have to get very creative when it comes to standing out, drawing people in, the follow-up process as well too. So it's definitely an art and it's definitely a skill, but sitting down and having conversations with remodelers, that was where I kind of shined in this role. So I quickly got moved up to a senior manager after probably about, I think maybe about a year or something like that. Yeah. And then after another year, I got moved into the manager of the department. And then after another year or two, I got moved into the director of client services. So that was my role the last 4 years or so at the company. When I was a client manager, I was managing, they just kept throwing customers my way. I mean, I have the great fortune of working with some of like the largest companies in the world, United States, top 100 remodelers, some smaller ones, some larger ones. So it was great to see all the operations, but really where my business is at today, it all kind of started from, that exposure, because one of the things I was trying to figure out is when I'm managing almost double the workload compared to every other client manager at the time, because they just kept throwing accounts my way. It's like, how do I automate this? Yeah. Because at the core, what a digital marketer is, or what they do, a lot of it can be automated. It is, I'm pulling down data, I'm analyzing that data, I'm deploying campaigns, and every single Google product that's available obviously is fully integratable. And so you can integrate with that, you can automate it. So I was trying to learn some like digital marketing automation solutions, which I kind of did that well at the time, but that is where I am pulling from that inspiration today and trying to figure out how we can actually automate a lot more of the practices that remodelers need to be successful.
Yeah, automation along with AI is another one of those words that you hear a lot of nowadays. Holy cow. Yep. And we're very much at Grosso University internally working on automation, because even though, we're trying to be at the cutting edge of technology, there's still things we're doing manually that I know we shouldn't be. Because one thing I'm proud of actually is that everything we've done up to this point has been completely organic in terms of our growth. So in terms of following up on leads and stuff, it's not like we're getting thousands of leads at a time. It's a few here, a few there. So we can manually send texts and calls and stuff. But now we're working on having full automation for SMS and email and even phone calls, inbound, outbound with AI. And it's like, holy cow, like what kind of world are we in?
And it's tough. It's tough to like set aside the time. Like, do you have your full schedule already put into place? It's like, all right, how am I going to spend some extra time working on automating, where it's like I could spend, it does take me a little bit longer to do it manually, but setting aside that time to set up those automated practices, you just start to see incremental gains over time from it.
So I'm sure a lot of people watching this probably have had a bad experience with a marketing agency or digital marketing. But what do you feel are some of the misconceptions people have about digital marketing? So people watching this, contractors in the industry.
It's a lie.
Yeah.
It's a big smoke and mirrors kind of situation.
Because I see a lot, it's like the vanity metrics, right? Everyone's talking about you're going to get this many views and this many clicks and this many this, that, and the other. But like you were talking about before, like what is actually going to drive revenue and what isn't?
Yeah, I mean, so let me touch on this part here first. So towards the end of my career at the last company, one of the reasons why I decided to part ways was my job would just turn into, when there was an unhappy customer, I had to hop on a call with them and present them a plan to figure out, hey, here's what we're going to do to turn it around. And I'm able to do that because I have seen these campaigns play out over time, but at the end of the day, it's a guess. Like, it's an educated guess backed up by, hey, I've seen this actually work, but there are many variables that actually go into play, whether to influence whether or not it's successful. I mean, I was mentioning this before, but it's on site. Obviously, there's things you can do from an SEO standpoint to architect out your website, to build out the content, to have keyword density or have internal linkings, having backlinks. Like, there are it's like tried and true practices that you should do. And when it comes to ad campaigns, same exact thing. There are things you should do, like making sure you're blocking out terms that people are going to search for that either will lead to a wasted click, or if you get that lead actually coming through, well, they're not even interested in buying, or it's not your ideal customer. So don't get me wrong, there are things you can 100% do to try to mitigate risk, but it's still a risk at the end of the day. And with paid search right now, it's just so expensive. I mean, looking at markets like, Denver and roofing, I mean, you could be paying upwards of $75 for a single click to get to your website. Wow. Now, that's kind of backed by Google's algorithm saying that this person has shown so many signs that they are very likely to actually convert. But what if they don't? Now you're out $75 for a single click. Yeah. And if you're buying 10 clicks at $75 a piece, you might be looking at a $750 cost per lead. So the biggest thing that I would say is, if you're not having those conversations with your digital marketing partner and they're just saying, we can get you everything that you're looking for, ask questions. Yeah. Like, try to dig in and really understand, it's like, why are you so confident that it will work?
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's some of the things that you saw was kind of lacking in your career. Obviously, working for this big marketing agency, is there's just a lot more that we can do to be fully transparent and forthcoming about, like, how to maximize every precious opportunity that comes in, so they can actually, have real forecasts and predictions. Like, what can we really bank on? We're spending this much on marketing. What's the ROI? Because it is all guessing. That's what I thought, like with paid ads. I've been terrified to do anything paid ads because every time I talk to somebody, it just seems like you're just throwing money at an infinite abyss and you have no clue if it's going to turn into anything. Yeah. And like, I can never get clarity on how does this money turn into revenue, like, that I'm investing,
Yep. So yeah, you want to feel confident that it will work, but then most importantly, you identify that it is working or isn't working. Being able to catch things before, it become a huge problem. That was one of the things that, the last place I worked at, and this is not uncommon amongst other agencies, is that you don't have a sense as a customer in real time, how much are you spending? That was ground zero from the start of the origin story with Uplevel. Seeing that remodelers don't have true insights, and then they have to wait 30 days to see that they spent $10,000. And on the agency side, we're saying, oh, we got you 50 contacts. Yeah. But then you're coming back and saying, well, I got 0 appointments. And then we're coming back and saying, well, did you pick up the phone and call them? Yeah. Those end, and then those conversations just go nowhere. And we want to be able to be a true partner. And the biggest thing, as I was mentioning, when it comes to starting Uplevel, was from day one, it was, you have access to what we have access to. Why should we hide anything? Yeah, the numbers might not be pretty sometimes, and there's so many things that we can do to try to resolve that, but we want you to feel comfortable. But also, you shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg as a remodeling company to have access to high quality marketing, like digital marketing solutions. Right. Thinking about going to buy or build a website with an agency, I mean, you're looking at $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 out of pocket. Well, that eliminates, if you're just starting a company, if you have been around for a few years, like, you have to be doing $10, $20, $30 million as a business in order to be able to afford access to those types of solutions. And then your monthly SEO is $2,500. Your ad campaign management is another $1,000+ on top of that. Yeah. So that's not even including your ad spend. So you're looking at like $10K a month just to hope that it's going to actually get a return. And what happens if it doesn't? And then, you wait a couple of months and just, try to buy some time. But
so, as I expressed at the beginning of this podcast, I've personally had bad experiences with marketing agencies, but part of it is I don't know what questions to ask, and I don't really know what to look for in terms of red flags, because they all sound the same. They'll be like, I'll solve all your problems, just give me your money, and you're going to have so many leads. I can't tell you how many marketing agencies that I met with were like, how many leads can you handle? I'm like, like, all of them. What do you mean? Like, that's a ridiculous question. But it's like, how many leads can you handle? I'm like, yeah, as many as you possibly can. And if I can't handle them, I'll grow a bigger team, you know? But just constantly get basically false promises, overpromise, underdeliver. So this just kind of popped in my head. What do you see as being some questions people should be asking and some red flags? Because, I think it's a red flag when they demand they want to own everything. So they want to own my social media accounts. They want to own my website. I'm like, do you have to own it to help me? Like, do you have to own all my stuff to help me? So I don't know if there's anything you can share on that subject, but.
Well, why do we think they want to own it all?
Exactly. Then they can basically handcuff you longer, you know? So
that's, I mean, I will say there are some like situations too where it is easier on the agency side and on the client side to have ownership over certain things. And it's not even ownership, but domain.
Yeah.
Like, you want to 100% own your domain, and the registrar things like having access to what we call DNS zone files, the ability to basically make updates to where your website is deployed to or where your emails are exchanged. Those are things that it is very beneficial for agencies to have access to it, but you still fully own, and you can pick that up and like pull it away at any point in time. But Facebook pages, Google business profiles, you can get your tracking numbers ported away. All of that should 100% be in the ownership of the business, because that is your digital asset. That is
again,
like,
call me ignorant or whatever. Maybe I'm just too gullible for this stuff. But I found out like 3 years after we started working with a marketing agency that they still own my Facebook account.
Yeah, you're not on. Yeah, I can't tell you how many calls I've been on where it's like, all right, let's try to get access to your Facebook Business Manager. I don't know who has access to it. And then you're going down this rabbit hole. It's the former agency still has access, and you got to call them, and it's a pain.
It's a mess.
The website side, that is where, if you want to own that, that's something that would cost a little bit more to own that. And it really depends on where you're at as a business. But at the end of the day, I mean, when you go and pick it up and go to another agency, that next agency is going to want to say, we're going to have to rebuild your site anyway. So you are kind of in a way leasing your website. There are solutions that you could do to where you can full outright own it. You could hire an agency to build you out a custom site. We would do that. We'd also let you lease it from us as well too. But outside of that, I mean, it's tough. Here's the biggest thing where when you're sitting down and talking to a representative at the agency when you're going through the discovery phase, I would say probably 95% of the agency reps that you're speaking with, they're obviously sales individuals, right? I had the great fortune of working with a phenomenal sales rep at my last company I worked at. I mean, one of the best hardworking guy I ever met. And also on top of that, he was willing to learn with me. And the challenge always is they're putting together these projections. They've never run a campaign, never run a campaign. He took the time to learn, understand, work with me, and try to figure it out. We really got to a good system to where we can sell something and felt confident that the results could be backed up. But the challenge is you're speaking with someone that is having a conversation with you, trying to get you to sign up. And then the hope is, all right, here you go, client management, go figure this out. And so there's a disconnect from that standpoint. And when I sit down and meet with companies, you're speaking with myself, who has done it, who has obviously put everything together.
Cannot do, and you're going to be more forthcoming about the reality of the partnership.
And I have no problem saying like, no, we can't do that. Or you know what, because the market that you're actually in right now and the high competition, you're better off just buying some leads from Angie. Like it's like so counterintuitive, but go out, get a flat, predictable cost per lead. If you only have $3,000 to $5,000 in ad spend or marketing dollars you want to invest into, paid search is such a gamble to where you should have that predictable pipeline. And we'll set up an integration. We'll help you go and deploy those funds, can route through our system, and we can analyze them and give you those real-time metrics and be able to identify what's working, what's not, turn things on, turn things off. And then as you start to get to the second and the third phase, well, then definitely paid search there is 100% good value in there, but you just want to be strategic about it. But also, if it doesn't succeed, it can't crumble your business, and it can't. You just can't fully rely upon it as your 100% marketing effort.
Yeah. So a lot of good insight there. So obviously, founding Uplevel in 2022. So I know the big mission, of course, is not basically ripping people off when it comes to marketing so they can get a return on investment. I was talking with an owner the other day. He's like, I'm so sick and tired about all this talk about leads. I want to talk about appointments. What do we really want? I want appointments, because everyone's talking about lead generation. Obviously, lead gen is important, but it's like what I really want is an appointment.
I've gone back and forth on this topic. I mean, when I was classically trained in the world of digital marketing, I just need to get you as many forms as I possibly can. So I'm going to reduce the amount of form fields I possibly can. Just ask for maybe name, email, phone, and zip code, and I can say to you, look at this. I got you a $50 cost per form fill. Is that really or over time and really understanding this a lot more, well, why don't we get you phone calls? Well, then you're actually speaking to someone. And then instead of all these form fills that you're having to hunt down, you get a 30% set rate on. Well, how can we, maybe the cost per lead goes up, but the quality goes up with it by adding in maybe more fields and maybe more steps. And so counterintuitive, but at the end of the day, you want a contact filling out a form, if they do fill out a form, to be highly qualified because they're much more likely to turn into an appointment for you.
Yeah, and a sale.
Well, then ultimately a sale, yes, of course.
Especially with the Grosso training, right?
Yes, of course.
So, without switching gears too much, when I first started working with you, this is before GEO, SEO is still important, still matters. But what are some of the things you see in terms of maximizing SEO that's kind of like low-hanging fruit that people can start doing right away? I think you already mentioned some of those things that you see us doing, but to like improve our rankings on Google, improve your domain authority, what are some of the simple things you see commonly missing, whether it be just from social media, from their website, from their Google presence, that they can just start building right away?
Reviews, 100%. Google business reviews, highly important. They've always been important, even more important in today's age. Talking about on-site versus off-site. On-site, it's going to be very much, and this is where you're going to definitely need a technical partner to help out with, but we'll talk about this more in depth a little bit later, but how is your website marked up? How is it actually structured? How is the content served up to when bots or agents come and actually interact with it? That's going to be much more into the wave of, agent interactions or agent engine optimization. Offsite, local listings management. Got to do it right now. You always should have done it, but right now, what we're seeing time and time again is that, when an agent or you go to a Claude or a GPT or a Gemini, they're pulling from citations and they're looking at what is your credibility, reputation online. From your website, I can say whatever I want, right? Yes. I can talk about we have done this or we do that, and where the validation comes in is these third-party websites that basically mitigate your ability to customize what is actually served up. So it's authentic user or I guess homeowner engagement reviews. You want to make sure your name, address, phone number is lined up across the board. You could use tools like Yext, you can use Bright Local. There's many different tools out there where you could go and have one central spot where you put in all your business information and it can push out to like 60 different sites. You can go to 4 aggregators. Those aggregators can serve it out as well too, but go to Google, get your reviews on there. Facebook is good to have. The question comes up a lot is if I'm posting on my organic feed, will that get me leads? Probably not. Probably not. But it's good to have that because if someone checks you out, takes a look at you, it's good to see that when the full picture comes together, how reputable or how credible of a business you actually are and how active of a business you actually are. It's really what's going to be impactful. Yeah. So populating those sites.
So I was talking with a gentleman about SEO not too long ago, and he was talking about obviously reviews, how important they are, but he was talking about how having people include photographs with the reviews, how much of a difference that can make. So I guess why do you feel like that matters? Like if they include a photograph, because he was even saying like 1 review with a picture is better than 3 reviews without a picture.
This would be me speculating. I mean, I'm sure that's once again educated guess, right? I can't say he's wrong from that standpoint. I would just think about it from the standpoint of if I'm a homeowner going to read a review, what's going to be more impactful? Just text or text with a photo or, a text with a photo, but also the business replying or sending a reply in there. So the complete review story. Super important, but also with Google, I mean, any image that comes through Google Business Profile, well, they're running their AI over that image, and they understand exactly what is inside of that image, and whether it is coming from a review or coming from your actual business profile, that's all data that they take into consideration when they're deciding their ranking algorithm.
So how beneficial is it for companies just to upload photos to their Google profile? Because I do this all the time. I'll just upload everything I'm doing onto Google. So I got, I don't even know, probably 1,000 pictures on there or more. But is there any value to doing that? When people are searching for us online, just having a bunch of photos, and usually it's off of my cell phone, which hopefully that helps with like the location and stuff like that. But
it definitely does. So with the photo, there's a lot of metadata inside of that photo. Right. So not only just from the location, especially if you're a remodeler who just is out on a job site taking a photo of an install, well, you got that geotag, you can upload it. You can also add in additional metadata like alternative text, a description. So the more that you can actually serve into that image, the better it can actually resonate and actually get picked up on certain keywords. But this is something we started doing probably about 2 years ago, and I kid you not, like we did this for about a couple of weeks, and we saw immediate, like significant growth from it. But you've heard this, and I'm sure every remodeler has heard this from their agency. It is, you have a service area, you have services that you offer. Well, you're covering 50 miles, 35 miles. You're located in your office, or offices are located in a physical city. But if you want to talk about showing up 20 miles away, you have to have that on your site, right? So you build out all of those content. I am a window replacement company that services Madison, Wisconsin. So you have that on your website. You can do that on your Google business profile as well too. And so this was one of our very first like AI pushes that we did, is that we got photos coming in from our customers of completed projects. And then we would have our AI recognize what's inside of that image. And then we would just write up content. We might massage a little bit of the location, but if you actually have the location in the photo, we can pull that out and we can add it into the actual post. And then we start doing the same exact strategy on Google Business, programmatically adding in these posts 2, 3, 4 times a week, and taking a look at local listings, the ranking system on Google Business. I like within 2 weeks, everything from that was in spot like 4 to 10. All went green. And it's just because no one's really doing this, but also it's because to do it, it takes a lot of time. And that's where we started leveraging AI and technology to be able to automate some of the best practices, because it's a full-time job to do that, and it's impossible to do that on a consistent basis.
Yeah, there's just so much to this. Grosso University, as I mentioned, this has been a big part of our initiative, and now we're finally getting to the point where we're getting a consistent flow of new traffic coming in, where people are going online, they're searching for home improvement sales training, they stumble upon our website or our YouTube videos, they go watch our content, they love what they see, then they engage with us and they buy our training. So it's actually working in a big way, and it takes a while to build it out. But I've seen a lot of home improvement companies that are having success with blogs and articles and YouTube content and podcasts of their own. And you were alluding to that at the beginning of this conversation. So, but I think people kind of overthink it. They think they have to invest all this money and all this crazy video stuff, but just grabbing your phone and documenting what you're doing, just, the inner workings of your business and the day in the life of your company, a glimpse of your culture, go visit a job site, document the lives you're changing and the impact you're having on your community. Just start telling that story. And I don't know if this is true, but I was hearing from another guy who was saying that a lot of times the second most viewed page on a website is the About Us page. I don't know if that makes any sense, but people are trying to find trust signals, right? They're trying to find ways to trust you. But if you don't have any content out there, no articles, no information, your website's very vague, just stock images everywhere, you got to put some effort into building these things out. But when you do, it's just a 24/7 lead gen machine then,
It pays dividends. And going back to what you're saying, it does not need to be well produced. And this was the next step that we took after the Google Business post was, all right, when you were out on a job site, just pull out your phone. And while you're there doing, let's just say, a roof inspection, you're just talking, hey, this is, Brandon with, Miller Roofing. I'm out here today in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm doing a roof inspection.
Miller Roofing.
Miller, I don't know.
Miller time, baby.
Looking at, an asphalt roof here. I see this, there's a leak right here. And you're just naturally talking about what you're doing. But everything that you're naturally talking about, those are all organic keywords. And so what we did was, you send us that video, then we run it through our system, we extract the audio file, we run it through a transcription process too, where we can actually turn it into text. We take that text, we ran it through our AI, and then we can write up really good SEO, YouTube titles, descriptions, post that on your behalf onto your YouTube channel, and then we actually push that right into our website, and then write up a full blog article. So it does not have to be well produced. You just have to put together something, because people love seeing that. And you have so many videos of you just driving in the car, just walking and talking. That's all very naturally good content.
Yeah, because I was taught, I don't know if this was by you or by somebody else, that just authenticity is really important. Having the authentic content where people can truly get to know you, who you are, but where it doesn't seem overly produced. So I've noticed that. We have all kinds of different stuff where we're filming stuff like this. This podcast looks great, sounds great, but a lot of the stuff I put on YouTube and on Google is just, my cell phone, just a selfie video or something like that. And that a lot of times will get more action than anything overly produced.
Yeah, 100%.
So obviously AI is inevitable to talk about. I know this is something near and dear to your heart. This is something you are diving deep into. Let's just call it the deepest rabbit hole of all time for Brandon Miller.
I have not slept in a year. It's been quite a year.
It's exciting, both terrifying and exciting. So, but a lot of people have their own thoughts and feelings about what AI is and where it's going, what it's going to do. But I just want you to kind of let's dumb this down a little bit because, I was in the 50% of my class that made the top 50% possible. But did I tell you the other day I actually had something I was really proud of that I achieved?
I don't believe so. No, tell me.
So I finished a puzzle, and it only took me 3 weeks.
Oh, how many pieces?
Well, it was 1,000 pieces.
That's a lot of pieces.
But it took me 3 weeks. But on the box, it said 4 to 5 years.
Oh, it should take you 4 to 5 years to do it. Yeah,
that's because it was a 4 or 5 year old. Yeah, I got done in 3 weeks. Yeah. So anyway, simplify this. What the heck is AI? And help us better understand what all these terms are, because I hear LLM and agentic and all these different things. So is AI one thing, or is it all these different things? And how do we know what they're talking about and what the benefits are of each? And
it's great. Yeah. It's just another thing that we have to learn and try to understand in this space. And it's just, digital marketing agencies are not to be always fully trusted and not always having good experiences. Now we got to figure out how the heck are we going to trust someone in this AI space. Right. And, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about before is just feeling like you actually are speaking to someone that can help guide you and they're not throwing these buzzword terms and being able to actually answer these questions legitimately and not to overcomplicate things. And that was one of the best tricks in the books is you ask a question that's, oh, why is this not working? Well, now, you just to start talking about something unrelated or you start talking about something that is very high level or it sounds very complex, and then the customer just kind of moves on. That's not the way to do it because at the end of the day, if we can't figure this out together, what good is it going to do?
And so a lot of people throw acronyms at me I know what the hell they're talking about. I'm like, yeah.
You don't know about that CTR?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just because, okay, let's just think in the world of marketing, how many acronyms are there?
So many.
Yeah, 1,000, okay? So throwing all these at you, and I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Where are the leads, appointments, and sales
Yeah,
at?
Exactly. Let's talk simple terms. Appointment sales, yeah.
But so kind of going back here a little bit, and as I mentioned, we started using AI probably about 2 years ago, and it was started upon how can we all right. So looking at digital marketing, and when you go to work with a company, you go and they build you a new site, right? That takes you 3 months, and over that 3 months, which is eternity, right? I need a change now. I need this ready to go. You're also spending upwards of 10, 20, 30,000. It takes a long time, and it's not always the grand picture that you were kind of promised upon from day one. Right. And then you just have to get something live. So what we started trying to work on is how can we condense that website build cycle from 3 months down to a couple months, down to 90 days, down to a month. Can we get it down to a couple weeks? Can we get it down to a day?
Oh, gosh.
And so that's where we started experimenting with this AI is around how can we build out a full 50-page website as quick as we possibly can that's still high quality. And so this is something that, depending on the agency, I can't say everyone does this, but most of the agencies, they'll have a core template that they actually work with, and then they kind of rinse and repeat it, make it very easy to stand up, integrate your brand directly into it. Yep. We weren't doing anything any different than that, but what we were doing was we were building, basically a brand voice of the customer. So we hop on a call with a client, ask them about 20 questions. Our AI note taker would listen in. It would output basically exactly everything about the business, the do's, the don'ts, how things should be perceived, everything about what you offer, where you offer it, your credibility factors, everything. And then our AI would basically we had technology that would spin up a new instance of that site, populated with all of your services, because we built out this system that has every single interior, exterior product available. We had photos that we could pop directly into it. Then our AI would write the content, and we actually were able to kick that out within about 45 minutes. And so that was our first wave into it. And also on top of that, we were doing that for a $0 setup fee, and then we're able to do that for a monthly management of about $1,000 a month. So that's where we wanted to start was, let's get you a site today. Let's not make it super expensive, and let's get you going. And then every single month, our system was kicking out SEO content. So fast forward to, well, I guess about a year ago at this point, the timing of it was kind of interesting. So I don't think I ever shared this with you, but there was a time about a year ago, almost sold the company. And so there was a third party or a company that was interested in buying us because of this tech that we built out. Yeah. And I went out to the company to go meet with them in person, had a great conversation with all of them. I really liked who everyone was, entertaining the offer. On the way back, I kid you not, I was in the airplane, had my laptop open, and Google just dropped their agent development kit, which is like their system of building agents. And I started looking at all of it. I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be game changer. This is wild. And then it was like, sign up for our AI startup program. And so I did that. And I was shocked. About a week later, we got approved. And so they gave us funding to go and play around with like their AI program. And so we had basically a year free worth of credits to test and iterate. And so, the deal ended up not actually happening. Our tech wasn't maybe fully there to where it should have been. And no hard feelings whatsoever. But also in the back of my head, I'm like, let's go do this. This is exactly what I've been trying to get us to do. And so I've spent like the last year just digging into every aspect of it and trying to truly understand, because I was not a developer by trade. Became one because this is what needs to happen. And, it's always challenging where you are, I've worked with developers, designers, every single department within the agency. And, developers are very much like, hey, I'm going to go and finish these tasks or whatever. But being able to like build something, but think about it from the perspective of a remodeler, because you've had all these conversations, you've been to these companies, you actually see what they really need, and I can kind of curate it custom to their company. Like, it's been a very rewarding, tiring, but energetic. And this is a spot where I am so thrilled that we are as a company. But I know we're talking about AI and what all these different terms are, and I can get right into that. But I mean,
it's exciting stuff. I mean, it's amazing, because my journey at Grosso has been very similar, right? Obviously, having the background, building a high performance team, but still starting this business, I didn't quite know 100% how I was going to deliver what I envisioned to the world, to the masses. And then slowly but surely, you just kind of fine tune and fail forward in a way. And then opportunities like that you were just talking about when you're on the airplane present themselves. Like for me, it was kind of weird, but the biggest opportunity of all was when the pandemic hit and the world shut down and we got forced into this virtual world. Because I sincerely had no clue that I'd be running this business mostly virtual. I thought I was going to be traveling around doing in-person trainings and doing closers camps and stuff. I didn't fully understand it, but 95% of our business is virtual now because I was forced to. And then now I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I have a whole remote team. We do virtual training for people all over the world now in multiple languages. And you just kind of, fine tune and navigate your way forward as technology is rapidly evolving and try to take advantage of these great opportunities. But we are, if you think about it, we are probably in one of the most abundant opportunities in the history of humanity if people can really capitalize on it. Yep. I know people are scared, but
it's scary. Being able to understand it, but it's you need to embrace it without question. I mean, the day is now here that if you are not using it in your day-to-day operations and fully diving into it, you're going to get left behind. And it's scary how quick it's evolving. And this is what I was kind of sharing with you before, but after getting all signed up for the program and I was doing a little bit of development stuff, I asked our developer at the time, I was like, hey, I've been using ChatGPT to kind of help me figure out how to build out some of these landing pages. Like, I take some code, I go over to GPT, I say, here's my code, make it better. And it would it would be okay, it would kind of work or whatever, but it's not a true development experience. And developers operate inside of something called like an IDE. And so, Visual Studio Code, you have your code base, you can type in your code, edit your files and everything. I was like, I really wish there was some tool where like AI was right in that. He was like, oh, there is. And I was like, oh,
of course.
Which ones are they? Let me test out with it. And so I tested one, and I was just like, I was up kind of late one night playing around with it. I was just like, holy shit, this is incredible. And I sat there for a second. I was just like, oh, fuck. We're fucked if we don't do something because, and this was also like, 9 months ago, 10 months ago, where it was still not super great, but the power I saw from it, now it kicked me out something. It wouldn't function. Like, it's not going to function fully as an application at the time. But as the technology starts to advance and you kind of figure out how to harness and actually use it, it's like, oh, now I can actually do something with it. But that's taken, 6-7 months to really figure out how to fully leverage it. So there is a lot under the hood of what's actually happening. But yeah, if we want to get into what is AI and what the heck is it actually, because it's confusing,
I'm
right?
curious what your definition is, right? Because I'm still very much in my infancy with AI. I was one of I wouldn't say super late adopters, but I pushed back on it a little bit in the beginning. I'm just let me let this thing ride out for a little bit, because everyone's chasing all these shiny objects everywhere, and I'm a little bit more cautious because everyone's coming at you buy this, buy that, do this, do that, and I'm like, I'm basically signing up to make myself obsolete. If I take advantage of all this stuff, but I would like to better understand, because I do hear all these terms being thrown around like LLMs and agentic and all this. Yeah. I'm just curious, if you're to simplify AI from your vantage point, what is it, and how can people better utilize this amazing tool?
So this took me a little bit to kind of figure out, but at the very core of AI, you have more or less an LLM, which is your model. Yeah. And there's many different models out there, right? So you've got Gemini, you've got Claude, which is Anthropic.
Do you have a preference on which one?
Depends on what I'm doing. Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely have
Do you have one you find yourself using more than others?
Yeah, I do. Depends really where I'm operating, but I would say I use Claude more than any. Okay. They have fantastic models, but also they just keep rapidly coming out. Gemini has 2.5 Pro, fantastic for a little bit, but then Claude releases, the 3.5 and then 4, and then 4 is fantastic. Well, then now they got 4.1, but then now Gemini just released 3.1 Pro, and it's what is it? And they have different iterations of that model, something that's more intelligent, that takes, that can actually do a little bit more thinking, or you want something kind of fast. But I would say I find myself using Claude more than anything else. But at the very, very core, and you also have open source models as well too. Yeah. So these are what I just described there. Those are the models that these companies pay or build out, and then you just go and pay to actually use them. But then behind the scenes, there are thousands of models that you can just go, you could download, you can pull right onto your computer, you can pull into an actual application, you can use it, you can fine tune it, you can train it and customize it to be your own. What that is, it's a math problem. That's all it really is at the core. So basically at the core of AI, you've got a prediction model. And so that prediction model, it basically just takes in, depending on what the model is focused on, so whether it's text, whether it is audio or an image, you kind of break down a PDF document and then chunk it and parse it through to actually serve it into the model. But you send it in, and then what they call inference. And so it's basically just trying to understand what you are asking and then make a prediction on what you're asking. And these models, they have so many different variations of it, and it's all around how many data points or how many rows of data that's actually in there to make that prediction. So you could have a model that's maybe 4 billion parameters and it's been trained or untrained. It could be 9 billion, it could be 27 billion different rows of parameter. And so you have to have immense of compute power to be able to take all of these different online, you got to be careful where you're pulling your data sources from, because if you start training things on data that's actually protected, it's a whole lawsuit or whatever. But they just have all of this kind of built out, and so then it just serves back, hey, this is what I think the user is actually saying. Then you can run it through a few different other things. So at the core of AI, it's a math problem. It's just trying to predict what you're doing, and then you take it from there. Where it kind of becomes like an agent is where you have that AI at the core, and then the agent has a workflow. So it's, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then you equip it with tools. And so now I'm going to add a tool to it, or it can integrate into Google Business, or it can integrate into analytics and then take actions on your behalf. But you've got to train it on how to actually operate in that state.
So for the most part, AI right now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's still, for the most part, being programmed and built out by people, right? Like today?
So, I mean, yes and no.
Yes, because my question is, when it gets to the point where AI is completely capable of just programming and building itself entirely, how much faster does it evolve at that point? So that seems infinite, right?
Yeah, I mean,
AI could essentially make itself a billion programmers and essentially build itself to do whatever, like in a second.
So we're describing there as like human in the loop right now, and that is still very much like that is what's going to happen is you have these workflows set up and it's still got to be like checked and approved, or also like initiated by a human and then it's checked by a human. I can't say I've done this, but I would have to assume like because these companies, Google, Anthropic, GPT, or OpenAI, they're all probably fully capable of that. Now they're not going to go and mass release that to the public right now because, oh my God, like we had all that power in our hands. Like think about what the heck could happen. But like anyone could feasibly go out there and do that right now. Like you could just set up these infinite workflows where it's just continually running if you have the compute power to make that happen.
Wow. So I see all these data centers, like they're trying to get them built everywhere. Actually, so I'm in Windsor, Wisconsin right here. Close to that is DeForest. They were going to build, I think, a $12 billion data center here, but they voted against it. But I'm curious what your thoughts are of all these data centers popping up everywhere, and what are they planning for? You know, like what does that mean to you?
So the biggest thing with AI, and this is where it kind of took me a while to kind of figure out is, and you hear this term thrown around, especially when you're thinking like when you hear like stock markets and like what investors are thinking about and what these companies are talking about is infrastructure. That's the biggest thing. And like infrastructure can really mean a couple of things, but you need to have, once again, like very high compute power in order to be able to run. Like if we're talking about going back to that model, that's 27 billion parameters, and to think about how you have to drop in maybe a couple of rows of text and then run it through the whole thing to be able to actually yield out a prediction. Have it return like that, that needs to be hyper fast. And so there's a few things that's happening. So one, making it more accessible for people to run it themselves. And so, you know, Gemini and like OpenAI, like their long-term bet, and I could be wrong on this, but like my understanding, their long-term bet is they don't really care about selling their models. They care about selling the infrastructure for people to go and actually run and deploy their own models. From there, and you know, you hear people like Elon Musk talk about this and thinking about where we're going to be in 4 to 5 years from now, and how AI is going to be kind of centralized in all of this. Is that how do you serve like the inference or the AI anywhere, and how do you make it just so fast and accessible, like right on your phone? And so it's that point of delivery, and the AI. How do you interact with it amongst all these different applications? Because you can go to a portal like ChatGPT or Gemini once again, but that same model, then how do you access it from your phone? And then how do I access it from all these other different sources where I actually can? So it's that point of interaction of being able to use AI. And so just making it so fast, so speedy. You got to actually obviously have it like the data centers across the United States, because the closer you are in proximity, the faster it can return the answer.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just can't even comprehend the amount of computing space and power that a $12 billion data center would have. Like, what does that even look like?
I haven't gotten there. I have no idea.
Is a cajillion like a number? Like, I don't even know how it fits into it all.
Yeah, I mean, you did hear at like the State of the Union that obviously the current party is looking at like, we're going to make these companies pay for the electricity, because I remember hearing this a while ago. It was basically like the data center in New York. I think it was something like they're going to use 4 times the amount of electricity that would serve like all of downtown New York. Like it's something to that effect. Like it's just massive the amount of electricity that's needed.
On one hand, as they're talking about going green and, you know, preserving our natural resources and energy, they're literally like making these data centers that are just
time for solar.
Need a lot of solar. Hopefully it's really sunny where you live. So in the spirit of AI, and we kind of planted the seed in this podcast already. I'm hearing a lot more people throw around the term GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. So how does that differ from SEO, and why do you feel that that's a term that people should start to get to know and ideally start thinking about ways they can capitalize on?
So, and this is for me, I mean, this space just keeps changing so fast, and you know something today that's different from tomorrow, and something else kind of comes out. And once again, you just keep making these predictions, right? And here's the good news. So, I mean, if you are set up for SEO, you should be like, if you're like solidly set up for SEO, you should be more or less set up for GEO. But that difference, and going back to what we're talking about earlier, is you got to have your site fully architected, right? But it's that offsite as well too. And so making sure that your reputation online is lockstep. And so, I was just having a conversation with a customer a couple of days ago about Yelp. We all love Yelp, right? No, of course we all do not like Yelp for the most part.
Yeah, Yelp.
That's the company that will.
Oh yeah.
You all of a sudden stop doing advertising, and those bad reviews start showing up, and they pull out, rightfully so. But thinking of someone like Yelp, well, Yelp now has direct listings into like Apple Maps. They have indexing into like what we're seeing show up for citations and like different agent platforms, and so. You have to start thinking about how do I get my brand solidly locked down on all these different third-party listing sites and making sure that I'm actually going there and I'm getting reviews. So Google is still obviously highly important, but you got to give love to these other third-party platforms. But then also following up with them, making sure that you are disputing any low-quality actual reviews that come through. And going back to that story, I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, but like we have to probably go look at advertising back on Yelp again. Like it's not for so much for getting like leads coming from Yelp, but from your online visibility standpoint. Yeah. And so that's a very, very important part. But then also within on the site, is your website set up in a way to where the agent or the bot that's actually coming to your site can understand what the content is. So something called semantic HTML. And so having the right tags associated with the content, being able to make it very easy for them to actually weight that. We did a study probably about 3 months ago, and we used an API that basically allows us to run search results across many different markets. So we can take localized search results. And what we were curious about is in Google, what % of the time is that AI overview actually coming up? And when it is coming up, what's coming up inside of it? And so we ran across 100 different markets, like the top 6 terms for roofing, like roofing contractor, company, roof replacement, roof installation, roof repair. And we saw, it was darn near every single time AI overview was coming up, whether it was at the very top or coming up down in the section where people also ask for. It's kind of now like AI overview. And so this going into the theme of AI and like, how would you go and like go to AI? Like you're going there for an answer, right?
Yep.
Or I have a question, I'm curious about something, I need to get the answer. Well, the way that these agents kind of operate is, all right, I ask a question, let's just say if it's localized based, well, then they're going to go and do the same thing that you would do on your behalf. I'm going to go and do more or less a Google search in a market, and then I'm going to pull in the top 10 results, and I'm going to quickly run everything through. Like I'm going to grab the first page, maybe the second page, and run it through my analysis, and then return what I actually see in order of operations, basically. So that's where the third-party sites come in, because you look on page 1 of Google, half of them are maybe local businesses, half of them are actually third-party like aggregator sites. Yeah. So you have to have all of that fully set up. So that's one part. And then the second part is, how's the agent going to start interacting with your website? Yeah. I'll leave it there for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's crazy, because I venture to guess, because I see 2 things happening. You got the mass consolidation of the home improvement industry, which who knows what that's going to turn into. But I just picture a future where someone's got their Alexa or their device in their home, and they're like, Alexa, can you tell me what the #1 roofing company is in my market? And it'll do what you're talking about, kind of comb through all the data and all the information, and it'll spit out, Grosso University roofing, Yep. So I think having visibility, because people are going to trust their AI agents more than anyone. They're going to obviously have this thing attached to their hip everywhere they go, help them make all their life's decisions. So if you can be visible with generative engine optimization, I think it only makes sense. And you even talk about like AI-ready websites, right? So if you want to elaborate on that a little bit. So as we talk about, obviously, having visibility where AI is combing through all your information online, what is the difference now, the next evolution of websites where now my whole website is AI ready?
Yeah. And so I made this ridiculous wild claim probably about like 5 months ago to our developer at the time. And I was just like, after, really trying to understand and doing some learning, I'm just like, man, like what is a website? Like at the end of the day, what is a website, right? Website's just kind of like a database, right? Yeah. It's a bunch of data that can be served up in a way that is user friendly, right? You paint it up with some colors, your brand, all great user interaction, show your photos, show off your reviews, show what you offer, where you offer it, have a map, show all your projects. All that's still super important, right? Because users are going to a website. My prediction was like, what if they don't? Like if you're going to like ChatGPT or Gemini and they're going and get that info for you, like, is there a time where you don't actually need to go to the website and you start having the agents take the action for you? And so we started exploring things like, all right, well, if you've heard the term like MCP, that is very common in the space of AI. So that's called Model Context Protocol. It's basically just an integration. We probably all heard the term like API. I'm going to set up an API integration or kind of different terms there, but basically set up integration into your CRM, right? And that's through an API. Right. It's the same thing, but basically now, instead of a human developer going to read documentation, it's basically documentation for an agent to do the same thing, but with context around here's what you can do in this integration, and here are the data that you have to put in, here's what actually comes out, and then you basically authenticate on behalf, or you authenticate for the agent to take action on your behalf, basically. So it's like, what if we just set up one of those like on our site and allow them to kind of just start interacting with it, because then they can just kind of get the data coming back from it. And then you also start hearing terms about like agent to agent interaction. So like you get two agents talking to each other. So like maybe we just throw up like an agent on the site. All right, well then we just kind of like put that on hold. But I kid you not, within like I saw this about a month ago on like Chrome's developer site. But basically they started to like test and roll this out, and it's officially rolled out a couple of days ago, maybe about a week ago. But basically now Chrome has an MCP for agents. And so now you can define your MCP for your website, which is basically like if you're going to take, if you want to fill out a form, or if you want to place a phone call, or if you want to go and grab information. So like my wild prediction in a few years from now is, will websites exist? Maybe not. And like now it's just basically how do you structure your data, serve it for an agent, and then now they can just pull that in, and now I can pull in photos, I can pull in reviews, I can pull in everything else right into that thread. Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm picturing, right? I just picture like the agent going out into the internet and then stumbling upon the business, right? And then it's like knock, knock. And then another agent says, hey, how are you doing? And then they have this they have this like 5-year conversation that happens in 1 second.
Exactly.
They know everything. And then the agent goes back to the end user and be like, here's my recommendation, Here's what
I just talked to Bob agent down the road.
Exactly. This stuff is just mind blowing to think about. And, seeing these videos of AI talking to AI using AI language, it sounds like R2D2. Like,
I haven't really heard all those, but I'm sure they're great. Yeah.
It's like, do you want to speak in our like language, right? So they can have a conversation like incognito. It's scary stuff, to be honest with you.
Binary. Just write down to ones and zeros.
Yeah, exactly. But it was like a bunch of beeps and like weird noises, just like Star Wars.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
that's hysterical.
Crazy. So obviously you're developing something pretty groundbreaking with HelloJade, right? Did I get that right? HelloJade is AI-powered command center. So what exactly is HelloJade, and what big problem are you looking to solve with HelloJade?
This is what I wanted to do for so long. I mean, it all just goes back to, how do we make things easier for a modeler to operate their business? And what I saw time and time again across, all my interactions with different modeler companies is, wow, I've got 8 different softwares that I have to like set up and integrate. They don't really talk to each other. And then also, I see this pain problem a lot within the call center is I've got my CRM on one side. I've got my scheduling over here. I've got, something else over here that I actually need to keep track of. I only have so many screens, and there's no way that I can actually manage all this together.
I can tell you how many owners I've talked to that say it takes them an hour just to like get their computer booted up, get all the tabs open, look at all the technologies, and nothing, like you said, nothing really communicates fluently with one another from top to bottom.
And just thinking about reporting as well, too. I mean, I can't tell you how many reports I put together over my tenure in the space. And it's, then you go to all these different like digital tools, and then you've got your CRM. Well, then in the CRM, I can't really put in my spend, or I have to pull down 3 reports to get a accurate look at my leads, appointments, and sales. And like, how can I just combine all of this data into one centralized spot, and then be able to take, actions off of that? But most importantly, what we're trying to solve at the very core from a business level is digital marketing solutions. Going back to what I was saying at my last, about talking about my last job, is like all of this can be automated.
Yeah.
It 100% can be automated for the most part. Now, you still need to have, the foresight and the understanding of what does this mean and how do you actually operate and do certain things inside of that data. Well, with AI now we can kind of train it based on our knowledge and understanding and like feed it. But what we're building is a centralized spot where you can literally integrate all of your different tools. So all of your Google products, Google Ads, Google Business, Google Analytics, Tag Manager, Search Console, Bing Ads or Microsoft Ads, Facebook as well too.
I always forget about Bing. Everything's just Google. I always forget that Bing even exists.
You're not binging?
No, I'm not binging. Yeah, it's just crazy, all these things. But how do you manage it all, right? So it's something, you need something like what you're talking about just so you can wrap your arms around all this stuff, because it is overwhelming.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so being able to just bring it all in, you come into the platform, you hook it right up. If you don't have one created, you can create one on your behalf. Yeah. All the data can all be centralized, put together, and then now you can literally have an agent that oversees it. And so we have 3 different packages that you can subscribe to. We've got Analyze, Act, and Automate. And so it's kind of what you see or what you hear is basically how it operates is if you just want an agent to oversee and understand what's going on, you literally just go into the platform, you're able to just talk and have a conversation, and they can pull together reports for you and instruct you on what you should actually do with that information. Wow. Then if you want it to act right in that conversation thread, all right, well, based on this, what you're recommending, go and actually post for on my behalf into Google Business.
Wow.
And then for Automate standpoint, it's now I can set up 5 triggers on a week or on a month or whatever it might be, and being able to say, 2 times a week, post on my behalf programmatically behind the scenes. It's just running on my behalf. And so we're starting with that. And then we're moving into having AI fully build your website, which I'm basically tightening up. I got all the specs fully laid out, but it's the rebuild around data structure. And so, design is important. The data structure is infinitely more important right now. And so a full overhaul of how we kind of constructed our sites and building it from the ground up, and then being able to come in and then customize, and then it'll eventually be able to see here's the visual aspects of the website right in front of you. And then we're working on our very full custom AI voice agent that's not using any the commercial third-party applications. It's all customized behind the scene with the custom voice routing and everything, or I guess I should say custom IVR system and dialer and whatnot. So that's those 2 different products I just mentioned there. Those are about 60-70% completed. So we'll be rolling those into our platform here in the coming weeks.
So kind of explain that process. So assuming we want to build something like that for the Grosso University website where people come to our site, they're interacting with a virtual DOM, they're having a conversation, it's my voice, it's got most of my knowledge uploaded to it. So kind of walk me through how that actually is built out and what would that interaction look like? So
that's also at the core of what we have right now inside of our platform is the knowledge base. Yeah. And so you've probably seen this in a lot of different tools out there, but you're able to come in and you can upload, PDFs, text files, documents, slideshows. You can upload audio files as well too. That all runs through our engine. And then we're able to extract it. We put it into a data format that's basically suitable for AI. So going back to what I was saying about how the AI model operates, which is a prediction across so many different data points. The database is set up to do the same exact thing. So when you can convert it into an AI format, now we can also factor that into the decision making. So you can set up a knowledge base for your brand voice, for your website. We have a company as well too. We've got a few others, but that's where you start building that up. And then from there, then you can start working with your AI, which is Jade, inside the platform to actually take it and leverage it. And then the voice, we'll have to test this out here very soon. As I mentioned, we just need about 5 to 10 seconds of you speaking, and then
I have at least that available for you.
I know.
No, that's pretty crazy stuff. I'm curious, what is the name Jade? What's the origin of that name? Is it a name you just like, or? So
this, we were trying to figure out what we were going to name our platform. And we threw out so many different names, and then one of our employees was just like, why don't we just call it Jade, which is my oldest daughter's name?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know if I want to say Jade. Yeah. Like I say Jade positively so many times a day, then also I'm like, Jade, get back here.
You confuse the two.
Yeah.
Well, but it's funny.
HelloJade is.
Yeah, because my son's name is Elijah, and we do have an Alexa in our house. Every time I say my son's name, Alexa's like, I didn't understand what you want. I'm like, stop, leave me alone. Always listening on my business.
Oh, my goodness.
That's funny. So obviously a lot of crazy things coming down the pipe with AI, and obviously I have full faith you're going to be at the front lines of all that stuff. You're definitely one of my go-to trusted resources to try to figure out, like, where do we go next? What are we doing? What is GEO? What does this mean? AI-ready websites. And like you said, maybe the future is there are no more websites, and it's just AI agents going around and finding this data and communicating with other AI agents, and then they get what they need and they come back and serve it up. And
God, who knows?
It's a crazy world.
It is. It just makes your head spin a little bit. It's just like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? And this is honestly why I found a fascination with digital marketing early on. Was like, oh, there's always so much to learn, and it just kind of keeps you on your toes. My toes are hurting a little bit now. Like,
I'd like to get off my toes.
It's going
for a
so
second.
fast, but this is why I love what I'm doing. But I love, the home remodeling space and the home improvement space, and I just have met amazing people like yourself and other industry leaders over the time I've been in this space, and it's great to, really put something together that's going to help benefit everyone. And we want to. Our goal is to kind of be the shepherd's a bad word, but like more or less like the trusted source where like you can feel comfortable and like confident that what we're saying is accurate, true, and you're not once again getting all of these buzzwords thrown at you. And we just want to help guide you, and figure out what makes sense for your company.
Yeah, that's why it's important to me. If I'm gonna partner up with somebody or endorse any service, that I first have the opportunity to experience it myself. And like I said at the beginning of this podcast, you delivered on it in such a big way. It kind of restored my belief that it is possible to have a digital marketing engine that works. It can happen. And I can't say enough great things about that, and recommend everyone take advantage of it. Obviously, the podcast called Profits for Sanity. I wanted to ask, what are some other tips you can share with the audience, just how to, like, low-hanging fruit to be more profitable in their marketing efforts? What are some simple things you see like that's missing that they can start implementing into their business to try to be more efficient or more profitable in their marketing?
So the digital marketing side, and you were hitting on this earlier, it's tough because, you start getting reviews, and it's like, now I've gotten 5 reviews, but I'm still getting the same leads. And it's tough to kind of see that immediate response. And so you might just give up on it pretty quickly. Don't. Like that was 100%. Like the thing that we keep seeing time and time again, part of like the ranking criteria right now, kind of coming out the top is how long you've been in business, how many projects you completed, and reviews. Like those are highly important trust signals that you really need to be able to have your business show out. And so it's not going to be immediate. Figure out a good system that works for your company. Just grind at it for a little bit. You will see dividends start to pay off a little bit over time. Maximize your Google business profile. Maximize your local service ads account. Like that's really where you should be spending your time when it comes to Google. Outside of that, going back to what we're talking about with automation, anything that can be done to set up even like a lead comes in, a trigger goes out, an email goes out, an SMS goes out to start engaging with those leads, doing stuff around following back up, having good cadence in place to call a couple times and having follow-up emails, calling the day after an appointment if the demo doesn't actually turn into a one job. I know those are more like down the funnel, but those are all technical solutions that we're working on to help you when it comes to automating that. And then just leverage as much tech as you possibly can in your overall daily business practice.
Yeah. No, speed to lead is important, but that follow-up and nurturing those leads is absolutely key. Don't give up on it. Because how many, attempts does it take a lot of times to get a lead on a calendar? How many calls, how many text messages? And I know some companies where they have this actually AI automated text, call, and email cadence, which is really smart, right? Because, I think most people respond more to text, but some people will answer the phone. Some people will look at their email. So kind of hitting all those pillars in a certain cadence is really, really smart. But I think this is unavoidable. I think if contractors are not at least, dipping their toe in, ideally their whole foot at this point, and start figuring out ways they can start utilizing AI in their business, they are going to get left behind because of how fast it's moving. Yeah. And we see that happening already. The companies that are implementing this just simply have an unfair advantage. Yeah. And the gap between companies that are not using and the ones that are is going to get bigger and bigger, and it's just going to be so far. There's no way you're going to be able to catch up.
Yeah. I mean, think about companies like the larger companies. I'm not going to drop any names, but like the big companies right there who are doing $250 million a year in sales. Like, what are they doing with investing into AI? Like, they're probably building out custom solutions for their company. And that's just going to make them go even faster and further, and then just expand across the United States. Yeah,
proprietary stuff. So I guess with that in mind, if I'm a remodeler watching this and I'm just thinking about the next year, the next 2 to 3, 5 years, what is kind of the last bit of advice you can share with them on how to best prepare, how to the best, be equipped for the rapidly changing world that we're entering into? Like, if they were to start somewhere, where would be the first place you would say, start here in terms of starting to implement this stuff into your business or starting to automate things? You already kind of talked about it, but what's that very first step? People watching this, after you get done watching this podcast, I'd recommend you just start working here.
I mean, go see it for yourself. Yeah. I mean, I would say go and use GPT, go and use Gemini, go and use Claude, and ask it, ask about, find me 5 X remodelers, roofers or window companies in my area, and see what comes up. Yeah. And then start seeing, look at the citations, see what they're actually citing to validate what I'm actually saying here, and actually see it for yourself and be like, oh, wow, I should probably be putting a little emphasis on Yelp, unfortunately, but BBB and all these different local listing sites. Validate that first, and then also start playing around with it. Have it start understanding your business a little bit, and that's what we're working on, and that's what we have inside of our platform is an AI that's really trained and tuned to your business and make it customized. And so once you can build up that knowledge base, understanding that base, and then now we can start building out documentation. Now we can help you start building out presentations that you want to do in your monthly reporting inside of the company. And so play around with it, test it out, go for it, dive right in, and then go from there and try to figure out how can I actually weaponize this inside of my business. It's tough to take something and then being able, all these platforms are great and they have a lot of these integrations. Not so much from the business side that I'm talking about, but you can integrate with other tools, but it's how do they actually work? But they're not really business facing; they're much more consumer facing right now.
Right. So I know there's ways you can obviously look at your domain authority and see how your SEO is ranking and all this stuff. Is there any way to really determine how you're actually ranking on GEO or Generative Engine Optimization?
So I was looking at this the other day.
Because obviously, if I talk to my sweetheart of a Chat GPT and say, who's the greatest home improvement sales training group? They're like, you, Dominic. It's of course, Grosso University, sweetheart. I'm like, oh, you're so kind. But truthfully,
is that your nickname? You traded on sweetheart?
Yeah, sweetheart. Yeah, sweetie pie. But it's okay, if I wasn't me typing this in, if I was just some stranger, I just don't know, because it's always going to be partial to me, because it's my Chat GPT that I've been playing with for a while. Yeah. But if someone I've never talked to, knows nothing about me, goes on ChatGPT and researches who is the top home improvement sales training group in the industry, or what is the best sales training in home improvement, how do you know how you actually rank on that?
So I was diving into some research the other day, trying to figure that out, because this is something that we want to do kind of for mass consumption is come check out how your visibility is, because, once again, you are located in an office, but I want to see how I'm showing up 10, 20, 30, 40 miles away. Maybe I got multiple offices that I actually need to manage. There's not really a solution right now, because when I was talking about that case study where we could actually see the local results on Google, well, there's an API for that. There is a resource where you can actually run a query or a search in different local markets. Outside of that, from an AI search standpoint, they're still trying to figure it out too, right? It is infancy, ground zero. I've thought about ways when we're thinking about SEO circa 2000, 2003 or whatever, to where you could just keyword stuff and really put together some white, gray, or some more gray hat techniques, which is basically you got white hat techniques, which is best practices, black hat, which is I'm going to try to game the system as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
There's definitely ways you could do that right now. You can't really do that, or you can't really take a look at it, but one thing we can take a look at would be is we can use like the API for just like question and answer with like GPT. It's not going to really be exactly what we're looking for just yet.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about GPT ads yet and how that's going to potentially change things. I haven't done too much research on that just yet, but that is something that they're going to do. Anthropic is saying that they're not going to be doing any ads. And with Gemini, that's going to be, it sure seems like it's everything going to be connected right from local business or local service ads. So like that ad component is really going to be the key component for advertising inside of Gemini.
Yeah, I actually did a screen recording of my phone the other day where I entered in ChatGPT who has the best home improvement sales training, and then it obviously sent, and then it said Grosso University, and here's why, and then I put that on social media. It was kind of cool, but but yeah, I'm trying to figure out. That's really important for me. That and again, I know the reviews matter. I know our reputation online at all these different third-party sites matter. So, and that's basically what I've been telling my team. We just got to keep running the play. Because, one thing I'm proud to say is we have more 5-star reviews than any other training group.
You just crossed 400, is that right?
And, they're very expensive to buy these days. I'm just kidding. No. Yeah, we just scaled over 400. But yeah, we work hard to earn those reviews. But we're going to keep running that play. And I did a boot camp with Andy Elliott from the Elliott Group. And it was kind of what you're talking about, because he's big on building up that YouTube channel, right? That's the how-to platform of the world, and Google owns YouTube. YouTube communicates with Google. You want to dominate Google, you got to dominate YouTube. It's simple math, right? And he's like, you're going to be uploading all this content for a long time, right? And it's going to be very quiet. And you're like, is anybody watching this? You're not going to get many views. Your subscribers are going to slowly grow. And you're wondering like, is this really is the juice worth the squeeze, And then all of a sudden it's going to hit, and you're going to start getting leads. Yeah. And then it's going to really snowball, and it's going to grow. And then you get the avalanche and the big windfall. And then you're like, oh my God. But like the Elliott Group, they're getting 1,500 organic leads a day off of YouTube. It's unbelievable. So not that I ever really need to get to that level, but the whole point is like, you got to be willing to invest in this stuff. So write blogs, write articles, post pictures, upload video content, start recording and documenting who you are and what you're doing. Give your audience a chance to get to know you and build trust with you. Yeah. And those trust signals you were talking about, you got to have those out there. And even like your About Us page, if I want in your About Us page, what am I going to see? What am I going to read? Is it really truly meaningful? Does it give people a really good glimpse as to who you are or the company you're trying to build, right? So there's just so much low-hanging fruit, but it starts with taking that first step and just start doing it.
It's tough because, it's very much, when we operate from a digital marketing or like a marketing standpoint, it's like dollars in this month, dollars out this month. Yeah. Like it's got to be one-to-one. And so it's hard to kind of like put aside a bucket of marketing dollars or time and resources to like lay the groundwork to make that happen. Yeah. But it will hit. And one other thing, going back to that case study we did over 100 markets, the answers that we found coming into the AI overview, it was like about 60 to 70% was coming from YouTube. Yeah. It was so high, such a high percentage of not just like one YouTube video, but multiple. Yeah. What we didn't see is that it was actually kind of localized just yet. And that's going to be the other thing is when you start building out the localized content, like that's where you can start seeing the actual influence inside of your market.
Yeah. So absolutely amazing information. Obviously really excited. I'm probably going to have you back on the show every couple of months.
I'd love to come. It's going to change so bad. I'm going to come back and say scrap everything I said this time.
Yeah, because I want you to come back and like keep us updated on what's going on, because it will need to be a regular cadence. I don't know if it's like every 6 months you give us like the State of the Union, where are we at? Like what's changed since the last conversation? How's HelloJade doing? So
I'd be happy to come back.
Yeah, a lot of exciting things. So another amazing Profits for Sanity podcast. I'm sure all of you have pages and notes by now. But definitely, if you want to reach out to Uplevel, I am a loyal customer of Uplevel. I can't say enough good things about what they're doing. But if people want to reach you directly, Brandon, what's the best way to contact you?
You can reach me at Brandon@getuplevel.ai.
Brandon at getuplevel.ai. We'll put that at the bottom of the screen. We'll also throw it in the description in the YouTube channel as well. So make sure you follow up. Schedule a call with Brandon. He's at the cutting edge of all things digital marketing. You want to build a world-class website. You want to maximize SEO and GEO and all these things we're talking about. Or if you're looking to implement this new command center, HelloJade, to rule them all, where you can finally wrap your arms around all your digital marketing in your business, make sure everything communicates. It's absolutely where the future is going. So you want to be at the front lines with Brandon as he's, going deep down the rabbit hole, learning all this stuff for us. Let him learn it for you, and then he can just help guide you through the rapidly changing world that we're living in. So
it's fun.
So another great episode. As you know, this is a Profits for Sanity podcast, so we always like to sign off by saying, in the world of business, volume is for vanity and profit is for sanity. Absolutely. Woo! Appreciate your time. We'll see you on the next one.